Have you ever wondered how Africa, a continent bursting with vibrant cultures, incredible people, and vast natural resources, ended up in a cycle of poverty and conflict? The story is a painful one, a story of theft on a continental scale. It's a story of how millions of people were stolen, ancient kingdoms were shattered, and an entire continent was forced to serve the greed of another. Let's uncover how this happened. It all began in the 1400s. Portuguese explorers sailed down the West African coast, initially searching for gold. But they stumbled upon something they considered far more valuable: human beings. This was the start of the transatlantic slave trade. African men, women, and children were captured, often with the help of rival groups armed by Europeans, and sold to traders. They were then forced onto ships, destined for a life of slavery in the Americas. The journey itself, known as the Middle Passage, was a nightmare beyond imagination. People were chained and crammed into the dark, filthy holds of ships, sometimes packed so tightly they couldn't even stand. With barely any food, water, or sanitation, disease spread like wildfire. Millions died before ever reaching the so-called New World. Those who survived the voyage faced a lifetime of brutal forced labor. Families were ripped apart forever, languages were suppressed, and entire cultures were pushed to the brink of extinction, all for the sake of European profit from sugar, cotton, and tobacco plantations. But the Europeans didn't just take people, they actively destabilized the continent. By trading guns and other goods for captives, they fueled brutal wars between African kingdoms, creating a vicious cycle of violence and ensuring a steady supply of enslaved people. Thriving local economies collapsed as communities were ravaged by conflict and fear. Societies that were once self-sufficient became dependent on European trade goods, trapping Africa in a web of economic and political control. As the demand for labor in the American colonies exploded, so did the scale of the slave trade. Africa's wealth, both its people and its resources, was systematically drained and funneled into Europe, fueling its industrial revolution. While Europe grew richer, Africa was bled dry. Generations were lost, and the deep, psychological scars of this brutal system would shape the continent for centuries to come. And when the slave trade officially ended in the 19th century, the exploitation didn't stop. European powers simply shifted their strategy. This was the beginning of the scramble for Africa, where the continent was carved up and colonized. Its land, minerals, and resources were seized, not to benefit its own people, but to enrich European empires. The legacy of this centuries-long exploitation is still visible today, in the form of political instability, economic challenges, and social disruption. The physical chains may be gone, but the shadow of that history remains. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into our shared history.